Here we go. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us live today for this YouTube live stream. I'm Christy Anselmo. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Foundry. So I look after product management, product strategy for the business here. Today I have a fantastic panel. We're going to talk all about leadership in VFX, which, something very, very close to my heart, and I think you're going to love the panelists today. So during the session today, please add any questions that you have into the chat box. They'll come through to us and we'll do our best to answer them either through the questions we have planned or directly as they come through. And of course, if you are excited about today's live stream, if you like this, if you want more things like this, then please do the usual like and subscribe because we'd love to give you updates about future live streams coming from Foundry. So with that, let's meet the panelists for today. All right. Hello. So today I'm joined by Zoe, Nathalie, and Shannan, who are all amazing leaders in VFX with really interesting and diverse backgrounds and experiences. And I think looking forward to talking to you all. So how about let's start with some quick intros, give you all a chance to say a bit about yourselves and what you do. So to kick us off, let's start with Nathalie.
Oh, lucky me. Hey, hi, everybody. Thank you again for the invitation, Foundry and Christy. It's really a great opportunity to share, our backgrounds and how we became leaders in this vast world of VFX. So my name is Nathalie Girard. I'm the senior head of the 2D division at Rodeo Studios, where we have a big location in Montreal and a couple of other places across Canada and now open in Paris. So I've been joining that Rodeo for the past couple of years now, into a head of department for a couple of years as well. But I really come from, I would say, the floor, being an artist, a compositor for many years before having a shift in the career. So I've started my career in Montreal as obviously a junior comper and made my way through and finally got the chance to move to California and work over at ILM, where I gained a very huge amount of my experience over there. I got the chance to go through the process of a compositor, senior lead, soup and everything, and decided to come back to Montreal because now we all know Canada is a very well-known place where we have huge amount of talents on the tech side and the creative side. So now I reside in here, and I'm very happy to be, able to support such a large team of artists to overcome the big challenges that the VFX industry gives us every single minute of the day. So thank you for having me today.
Great. It's great that you're able to join for sure. Shannan, how about, do you want to go next? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, well, that's a tough one to go after. Hi, my name's Shannan. I own a very small studio in Vancouver and also now in Brisbane, Australia, called FatBelly VFX. I have a background in non-profit, and then since 2015, I've been in this incredible industry called visual effects, and I love it. And I'm hoping that I can sort of provide some insight into leadership in terms of like studio management leadership. So that's why I'm here. So thanks for having me, Foundry.
Yeah, great having you, Shannan. I think you have a really, that you run your own business, and coming from your background, I think looking forward to some of the stories that you have to share today. Great things for the audience. All right, and Zoe, how about you finish us off and tell us a bit about yourself?
Happy to. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here today and to be on the panel with three other really, amazing leaders in VFX. So my name's Zoe Cranley. I'm the head of CG in Canada for beloFX. I'm based in Vancouver, in the beautiful North Shore and the beautiful hills, mountains that we have here. I started my career a long time ago now in London at Double Negative, and spent a good few years in the London office, working as a CG artist across lots of different roles and lots of different titles. I then had the opportunity to move to Singapore. So I was in Singapore for around about 3 years, again as an artist, and then taking on more leadership experiences in lead and supervising, and ended up CG souping a couple of titles there before I moved to Vancouver, which is where I moved about 8 years ago. So settled here and fell in love with Vancouver, and moved 2 years ago to a new studio, a new startup called Bello. And so been on the journey of a VFX startup, which has been incredible experience. And yeah, really happy to be here today, and can't wait to get stuck in and have a chat.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Zoe. Actually, yes, so we get right to it. So to kick us off, of course, we're all leaders of teams, businesses, like very much from that kind of management perspective of leadership. But I think it's worth, I want to hear from all of you guys about what does leadership in VFX mean for you? Because I think it's what we do, but I think certainly more than that. So how about this one? Let's reverse the order. So Zoe, do you want to give us this one first?
I knew that was going to happen. Oh God, you know what? I found this one actually this is to me a really hard question to answer. What does leadership mean to me? Because it's so vast, it's so different, and it's ever changing, ever learning, ever surprising. So when I, practically what leadership means to me from a day-to-day, as head of CG, I lead and manage the CG department at Bello, which ranges a huge vast different skill sets, working with brilliant and talented people. What that means on a day-to-day basis, ranges from resource management to working with shows, bidding new shows, ending up shows, shutting shows down sort of when they finish, reels, that kind of thing. It's just so vast, I think, and to me a lot of it is being a backstop as well, keeping the shows on track, keeping everyone on track, and being the person at the end of it that can be at the end of the phone if there's ever a crisis and there's ever anything or anyone needs to just talk. It's endless. I think that's really how I would describe this what leadership means to me.
Yeah, that's great. Definitely that here and there, that bit of what they call it, like the servant leadership style. You're there to support the team, support all the people around you. And yeah, I think that's a great aspect of leadership. What about for you, Shannan? What does leadership in VFX mean?
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit different because, I'm at owning a company is different. So for me, I sort of feel like leadership in VFX is about being an ally to everyone in the industry, whether they're artists or production or operations, HR, recruitment, all that sort of stuff, because they need that support and they need that connection. And for me, one of the biggest things is, people say like, I'm talking the talk and I'm walking the walk or whatever, but they're not. People like to say that they're talking the talk, and I walk that talk and walk the walk every day, and it is difficult. It's not easy, but it's to the benefit of the people that I work with, so that I will stick my neck out and take the brunt of things, so because that's my job and that's what I should be doing, so that others below me can focus on what they're best at and not worry about that. So yeah, that's sort of how I feel about it, as well as what Zoe said, like all the in-between things, like show setup and show archiving and making sure people are fine and do they have all the stuff. Like it's an intense industry with so many different layers and levels, and but that's for me how it is.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, definitely that breadth and complexity to manage for sure. What about for you, Nathalie?
Oh, like it's so diverse, like Shannan and Zoe mentioned. The first thing that does come to mind is I think being a leader is how would you like to be led as well? So I have my, direct report who I admire a lot by the way he leads. So lead by example. I always try to remind myself because, sometimes it can be stressful. We can get a little agitated. You get confronted with challenges. Either it's a client that is more demanding or is squeezing time, but you still have to remain calm and just make sure that you assess what the production need, what does your direct team needs, but all the other teams that are always working in collaboration. So I think leading by example. And I think the other good thing about VFX is keeping that passion, because say, especially maybe more Zoe and myself, we come from the artistic background. So I think what brought us in here is we still like the end result, because it's always amazing what we create. So we have to keep that in mind too, that you're leading people to be able to create the vision, either with the VFX supervisor on our studio side or on the client side or the directors. So I try to always remind myself when I was sitting either in front of the computers doing my shots and doing my tech check, and how the VFX supervisor could look at a shot and comment and lead the people to give the end result. So this is how I think VFX leadership, as well with all the other, we're dealing with humans a lot, even if most of the computers like Foundry and the software do the work, without the creative people behind, this would never happen. So we have to take care of those people as much as we can, so they can be as creative as possible, so we can take out the little bumps that every day that we're facing. So we're kind of the barrier as well, make sure that it doesn't trickle down, and that people can actually focus on, creating the art that we like to see on our screens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love what you said too about that being unflappable, really. Like when you're the leader and it's all melting down, you're the one that has to be calm for the team.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So actually, well, you kind of started it. You went there a little bit, Natalie, about like the path into leadership, and I think, well, none of us started in leadership, right, as the first role. So if we can go back, I guess it'd be good maybe to hear from you all about what how you became to be a leader. Like, did you always know this is the direction you wanted to take, or when did you decide to make that change? So let me go back to you, Natalie. I think you can.
Okay. I think I can recall I think I'm the type of leader that's always like to help. So I think it's not, you want to help, I'll give it to me, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. And that kind of grows into, and it kind of puts itself together kind of naturally. I'll put it together, don't worry. And so you can say, okay, my supervisor, don't worry, I'll take care of it. So I think it kind of grows that way. So when I was the first offered of being a sequence lead, say it was really small stepping stone, especially at ILM. So that was like, oh, I think now this is where I want to go, not just stay an artist, but it's important to have great artists that just want to do that, because if everybody wants to be a lead, there'll be nobody in the back actually doing the work. But it's making sure that the pieces are moving all together all at once, and everybody's on the same pace as well. I kind of enjoyed that phase, and maybe having the creative touch of that little extra step that you can guide people with the vision of your supervisors, kind of leading the way to make the job work. And after that, so maybe I could do that, challenge myself. Well, I can do that. Let's try it again, and kind of challenging myself. So maybe it was, I'm a very high active person, so it's not to get bored every day.
I like that. It's like you're just going to do more. Exactly. And then before you know it, you're in charge.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it similar for you, Zoe, in your path from being an artist and moving to leadership role?
Yeah, pretty similar. I moved into a sequence lead, same with Nathalie, which kind of was a stepping stone. I think had I always seen myself in when I was younger being a leader, not directly, no. I'd always knew that I really enjoyed working with people. I really enjoyed the challenges that come with working with different people. And I think as when I moved into VFX, I realized just how vast, and it's such a unique, I feel like visual effects is such a unique industry, because the broad spectrum of skills that we're required for our industry, but also backgrounds, people's skill sets in terms of background, very, incredibly creative, but also incredibly, technical engineers as well. It's so fascinating in terms of, I don't think there's many industries like ours that are so broad in that skill set that's required to, put movies and episodic on the screen. Always enjoyed that, getting roles as a lead, thinking, oh yeah, I really enjoy this. I really like still the craft, but enjoyed that team aspect, that people aspect. And that just grew into supervisor roles. And then, from supervisor roles into management roles and, being HOD. It sort of it came over quite a long period of time, but each was a sort of a stepping stone into more of those responsibilities as I went along, really.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Yeah, so a bit similar. Definitely the people aspect, right? How you work with people and teams and help them be effective, right, and successful.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome. What about you, Shannan? Because you've got a different path, and of course, like as an entrepreneur, how am I going to open your own business? How did that come about?
Yeah, so like I said, I started in VFX in 2015. I had a big background in operations and management and people and all that sort of stuff. And so I got to apply that into this gorgeous industry and then learn all about it and do all the different sorts of sitting with artists and going to dailies and writing notes. And I was like, this is the shit. Like this industry is amazing, And what I realized was that the only superpower I really had was people. And I was really great at connecting with people and understanding people and helping them sort of get to where they needed to be or the company needed them to be, where they wanted to be, and all that sort of stuff. And I use that because, as Zoe said, and Nathalie said, the people are the biggest thing of this industry. So I progressed and went to a few other studios, and then I got to a point in early 2019 where I realized, I want more. I want more than this. And based on my background, no one at a business, at a VFX studio, is going to give me an opportunity because I'm not an artist and I don't have this huge background in VFX or film and television. But I still felt that I could do something really unique and special. And I just took a huge leap of faith and did it. And I don't regret it at all. Best thing I've ever done.
Oh, that is amazing. And that is so bold as well.
Bold, foolish, they're kind of the same word, really.
Brave and courageous,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
I think, and that's amazing. I think that, and I know we'll come back to this as well, but that, taking the skills that you have, leveraging those, not being afraid to use them, seeking out opportunities. I mean, there's so many inspiring things in there. I think, it's great. So I think, so we've all been on these journeys. What advice would you have for someone who is entering those kind of early stages of leadership, getting into that first leadership position? Actually, let's go back to you, Shannan. What advice do you have if someone says, I want to do what you did? That's amazing. What
funny,
share?
I really thought about this one. And for me, it was, you always want to ask for help. Fine. Don't let your ego or anything get in the way. What I have learned is that you need to be very specific about who you ask for help and who you want to give you that advice. Because as much as people say they want to help, it doesn't always align with us or the dream that you have or what you want to do. So be really, really conscious and cautious about who you're speaking to and who you choose potentially as a mentor, whether it be as an artist or in sort of in the way that I've gone to things. Just find someone that you trust and go to them and be open and honest with that person. But yeah, don't, it's okay to ignore lots of people's advice. That's okay to do that.
I love it. Ask for help from the right people.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, that's great. What about for you, Zoe? Any advice you have?
It's a little bit similar to Shannon's. One of my biggest advice, which I always tell people, is you won't know everything. You're not expected to know everything, so don't try and know everything. You'll fail fast. And exactly like Shannan says, I think be open, be humble, be vulnerable. Be open to things you haven't explored or are new to you or is going to be a challenge because you've not experienced it before, or it's not something you've ever had come across. Time and time again, I've been in a leadership role now for more than a decade, and still every week something new comes up, and I talk it out. I talk it with people. You are no expert on everything, and know that the expectation is, I think a lot of people move into lead roles and the first thing they think of is okay, everyone's going to look to me for all the answers. They aren't. And I think they actually need you to say, actually, this is something I don't know. And I think being that vulnerable allows others to also be vulnerable as well, and for them to sort of get if they see you being hey, let's talk this out. Oh, that's a really good question. Or I'm not sure, let's figure this out together. Then you encourage them to. And I think you create that kind of open dialogue, which, let's be honest, VFX, from a people point of view, from a leadership point, from a technical point of view, is, can throw new challenges every day. So encouraging that from the beginning, I think is key. And the other bit, which I think is really valuable, a bit of advice, which, I always say this because I've learned the hard way, is look after yourself and be you. Don't lose you. Stay healthy. Be well. Don't suddenly give up everything you love. Be that exercise. Be that pottery. Whatever. Like, stay you. Be healthy, because you cannot survive if you aren't, being good to you and being being well and healthy and happy is really, really key.
That's good advice, Zoe. Such good advice. Totally true. It's true, because we tend to say, oh, I'll just keep go at it. I'll get it done. At one point, it's like you have to stop and say, I'll pause and I'll come back to it tomorrow, fresh, clear-headed, exercise, slept well, ate well, and I can reattack this problem and solve it properly. Say,
yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it's so true. So true. The other thing is, like I said at the beginning, is if you see people that you admire because of their leadership skills, their soft skills, or even technical skills, I think it's observation of how they work, how they speak. If it's somebody that runs dailies, the way that they address people, I think observation is another good way to say, hey,
absolutely,
person influences me, or I really admire, so how could I not replicate but put it in my own way, because or listen to people the way they even give you advice, and after that you can massage that advice and put it in your own application. That could be a good thing. And asking question is always very good, like Shannan mentioned, and finding allies as well. People that are resourceful, not like bombarding them with questions, but that, oh, that's a good person I could put together and ally people together to help you solve that problem as well. I think makes you a big leader, because you gather up a team of people that challenge themselves and yourself to solve the issue, because you can't solve everything on your own. It's all about team, especially VFX. It's like, you need to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. The teamwork and finding the right sponsors and allies too. I think that's also super key. Definitely.
And if you find somebody too, you can ask them if they can be your mentor in certain ways, or ask for, can you give me a half hour
exactly
a week, or every 2 weeks? I have a couple of questions for you. People have to be not shy to do that. Say, I wish I would have done that more back in the day. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, especially in this industry, I personally found, coming in as well, that everyone is so keen to share knowledge and to be helpful and to help you learn. And if you you just ask, be vulnerable and open to ask people about what you don't know, and then find those people who are going to be there with you, through the journey. They want to see you succeed and to help you through. It's absolutely key. So we did have a question come through in the chat, which I think is quite relevant.
Yeah.
So we have Lee here, he is in this right now, wanting to move from being an artist, right, to leading and supervising projects, and asking if there are any tools or resources that you would recommend for those that are moving to being more, leads rather than I guess shot-based compositors.
I can answer it from a in terms of tools or resources. For me, I think one of my go-tos is I love listening to podcasts, and I think there's an awful lot, both VFX but also management or leadership podcasts. From any kind of industry, a lot of the same rules apply. I like listening to those, learning from them. Same with sort of, there's great books out there as well. And I think, leaning into that kind of resources, I think has helped me. Hope that's helpful.
I think there's another one too, is ask to get feedback, not wait for your annual review. I always ask, do you have feedback? Do you have any comments? Say, don't take it personally, because I want to not say go in the wrong direction, or say dig yourself into a habit that you should break, say right away, even if it can be a big mistake. So do you have any comments? Just lay out on me so I can learn from it and maybe not repeat or readjust my as we go and not go too far away. Say.
Well, and it sounds like Lee's already made sort of that bit of a shift from comp into leading and supervising. And I think, and Zoe, you touched on this, is the biggest thing I have seen is that artists who are at a senior level and then they get promoted into a lead or a supervisor position, they don't get given enough support from the company that they're working from. So make sure you go back, Lee, and ask for that support and ask for that guidance and training. And is there someone that I can shadow or do all that with? But also, it's the soft skills. It's the biggest thing about working with artists is being able to communicate effectively. And not every, we know this, not every supervisor can do it, because we've all worked with great supervisors and not so great supervisors. And the great supervisors are the ones who sort of understand that, who can sort of think inwardly, how would I want to receive this note? Cool, that's how I'm going to give that note. So I think that's a really big thing, that you clearly have the skills and the technical and the artistry to be able to, you're already moving in that direction. So just work on your soft skills.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, like, when you step into that, is get to know your team and everybody's strength and area of improvement.
Oh, that's a good one.
So you can lean on them for what they're good at, or where you can challenge them to something that they can learn, because leveling up your team will level you up, as well. So learn the strengths and areas of improvement. Because I don't want to use the word weaknesses, because weaknesses it's not a weakness. You just don't know. You're not completely comfortable with certain tasks. You just have to get comfortable and be good at it.
Yeah, those are all great bits of advice. Absolutely. Definitely. And I think, related to that, we'll already hear it coming through, like this panel is giving advice to leaders that are emerging leaders. But yeah, like how do you approach, developing and mentoring future leaders? And there's another question here about connecting with different generations. And I would extend that to just people that are different than you. Like, how do you, thoughts about developing and mentoring leaders? How about Zoe? Do you want to start this one?
Sure, I'll lean on the back a little bit of what Nathalie said. I think for me, the number one is get to know your team, get to know the people get to know those leaders. Everybody leads in different ways. Everyone has a different style, and I think that's great. This thing you will, and I think encouraging them to lean in to those, what Nathalie says as well, lean into the strengths, and work on you know, you're not, you know, things that you know, continue to learn on what you're still uncomfortable with, and you know, understand them and understand sort of their, you know, what motivates them, how they lead the team, what's their style, and I try now as much as I can to give advice, but not give advice rather than direction, especially those that are leading, because I think a big thing from you know, that I found with leading is you will make mistakes, and that's okay. You need to pick up from them. You know, we can all apologize. You know, I've made many mistakes that I've had to, you know, rectify. We're all human. That's okay. And that's where I try and, you know, really put that back on the leaders as well, to, you know that that's okay too. And, you know, be them and lead in that style that's going to work for them. Yeah, and give advice rather than, oh, this is, you know, and some of the things I try and do now is say, in this instance, this is what I would do. Some people take me up on it, and some people actually do it, you know, differently. That's more, you know, more their style. So I think that's where, you know, I've adapted there rather than expecting everyone to just lead exactly how I lead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to add to that, Nathalie? What do you?
Yes, such good points. Say step away of being directive, but leading them to find the right path or the solution to something, and be there if they need help. That's another thing to be accessible for people to come to you. So I know you're busy. Are you busy? Yeah, I'm busy, but you can still ask me for help. It's okay. Letting them know it's okay to ask for help. So even if I'm in a meeting, you can still chat the people. I need your advice. Can you help me with something? So be accessible to your team, as always. Cut away from the directive. I tend to be directive, but it's just, I want to step away, but sometimes like, no, let's just do this. Sometimes you do have to be directive because you have to, you know, cut the problem and get it over with. But it's something I'm working on too. And the good thing about VFX is it's so diverse. We're not a kind of numbers kind of company. It's diverse. So having diversity of every type of lead is really good, because it makes that you probably have more possibilities to solve the problem. So understanding the strength and where those strengths can really shine in their own style, I think it's good. I'm learning a lot of that right now, because I have 3 HODs that are new to being HODs. It's brand new since January, so I'm trying to guide them how to be good, and they're really enjoying themselves. And that's too, it's to keep that enjoyment. Even if we have a serious job, is you still have to enjoy what you're doing, because you're solving problems, you're putting pieces together, you're helping out people. So keeping those, even if it's not an image, it's like I said at the beginning, the end result is an image. So putting the people together to bring out the best of us.
Yeah, and I think also, you know, cultivating and leaders in my job is different, especially working in such a small boutique studio. It's totally different. I can do whatever the hell I want, really. So, and that's not reflective of what is normal. And in the industry, I'm very bespoke, and I have that opportunity to do that. But I think also on top of what Nathalie and Zoe have said, like, and we touched on this before about like asking for help and doing things and how we create leaders and things. There's also the Visual Effects Society, who not everybody is a member of that, but I know that they do some things. There's here in Vancouver, we have the Vancouver Production Alliance. So there's those opportunities. There's all those sorts of things online that people should ask and reach out. And there's these organizations who are meant to help, whether we are currently leaders, like myself and Nathalie and Zoe, there's support and help for us, or emerging leaders and people who want to move forward. So let's make sure we rely on those organizations that are there, because they're full of people who have come through, who are much older and wiser than I am, who can sort of give all of us that advice and support.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I think so for me, boss at Foundry now, like, well, product management at Foundry, a lot of the team are in their first product and technology roles. So my background in product management for a long time now in a lot of different industries, but a lot of the time it's teams doing it for the first time. I think a lot of what you all said rings true on you need to give a team enough guidance so that they have examples of what they should be doing, but then giving them space to develop their own style and helping build their confidence in doing something they've not done before. And there's a bit of an art in that as the leader. And I love what you said, Shannan, too, about you can mentor your team directly, but you can also help them find other resources and mentors and people that, for them and who they are, can give them that more maybe just bespoke or direct advice than what you can do. So that, lots of good advice in there. I mean, how about
Christy? I feel like we've had a really interesting question from Beta. She says, I struggle keeping teams' energy up after reviews. Do you have some tips for it? And I feel like Zoe and Nathalie would have some good advice for this.
Oh, that's a really...
what type of reviews is that? After a client review or...
Well, that's a good question. Yeah. Is it a client review or is it like an internal annual
exactly.
company review?
Beta can give us a little bit more detail. Maybe it's after reviews that are probably a little harder, or the notes keep repeating themselves and you're not getting probably what you want. I think if you're like a supervisor and you see that, is to go, okay, if you're in a VFX supervisor role, talk to your supervisors, like probably it's CG or lighting or comp. And after that, you have to go almost directly to the artist to try to understand. Some people, especially now that people are all remote, the connectivity is, so you can't sense the room as much. So I guess it's to really go down directly to the person and say, is there anything unclear? Internally and external, keep repeating are the worst. Yeah, totally. So if you're repeating after 3 times, maybe say, let's sidebar it. Let's do a session together so we have a clear understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say continue to talk it out. Maybe, brainstorm a different approach. Maybe there's a solution that's not the obvious solution. Maybe coming at it from a different angle. But I think ultimately anything like that, especially like you say, Nathalie, remote, is, get together as a team or as an individual and talk it through and try and solve it together.
Yeah.
And don't leave it festering. I think that's the worst thing you can do.
That's the worst, because it can be
absolutely
draining for even the artist. It's like, I can't hit these notes. What's wrong? And it can get really a downer.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Beta?
I think you both did really well. That was great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, related to that, I think we'll see if she comes back and has any other follow-ups. But it's, I guess, I think a lot of what you've touched on, in those responses was around this idea of how you adapt to different people's styles and their ways of working. I guess, do you have any other thoughts about how you build that, positive and inclusive culture? It's not just around reviews, but across the whole team that you lead.
Yeah, but I'm happy to answer that. I think for me, a little bit, leaning in what I said earlier, I think, learning, listening, understanding, really trying to take an open, wide perspective. I think, we work in a very global industry now with people all around the world, which is that's amazing and brilliant in itself. I think, be respectful, be kind.
Yeah.
You spoke about it earlier, of lead how you would want to be led. And I think, to me, I always really enjoy, asking, the small talk and asking people what they did at the weekends, because I get to know them. And if I know them, I can build a relationship. And I think, virtual is one of those things we seem to sort of go in, it's very easy to just go in business straight away and start talking about work. And I think you've got to, knowing what people did at the weekend, knowing, what their pets, is their pet misbehaving. I really enjoy that, because I get to know that person and their style and them and what makes them tick. And also knowing, it's not always easy. You know, people have a lot of things going on in their life, and sometimes that can get in the way. That can impact their work. It can impact their motivation. And to me, I always want to know if there's things that, you know, maybe impacting the way they're working or their concentration or their, you know, their ability to meet deadlines. I want people to be open to say, you know, this is what's going on at home, FYI, blah. So making that open door, making people kind of feel that they can talk, and because we all have things going on at certain times. We're all human, and you know, that's to me a big part of being a leader, is creating that safe, open, respectful environment.
Totally. Yep. I would have nothing to add on top of that, Zoe. You hit the nail on the head. Beautiful.
How about to add that? So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful response for people in your team. So maybe a way to ask about like how, and this was like, there was a question at the very beginning about someone who is coming to the industry maybe as an older person, and trying to make that transition into VFX. Like, what are your thoughts about how we can make our teams, I guess, more diverse as well as inclusive of different people and skill sets? And
it's funny because before on our rehearsal yesterday, we talked about that topic exactly, and how in this industry we promote young people, and it's totally fine. We need, but it's a balance. I think we need both, because people that are a bit more later in age have experience that maybe we don't have, that we can learn from, say. And I'm always eager to learn. Say we're all the same age-ish in this industry. A couple of older people, yes, but they're not that much. Say, and I wish there'd be more, so we can have people to say, "Oh my God, yeah, you've done that. Oh my God, that's incredible! And now did you manage to do this?" Say, so they can share their experience with us.
I think it's really easy to sort of say like, "Oh, they're old. Let's put them out to pasture." But they're the ones that pushed through and got us to where we are today. Like these people are the ones we owe a lot to, you know. So we need to sort of still be open to that. And although the technology that they used then is not necessarily the technology that we have now, there's so much that we can gain from them. But there's also this emerging, all these young TikTokers coming through who can do all the things, and it's incredible. So I think we, the leaders who are right now, we have this incredible advantage because we can pull from this and we can pull from this. And for the question, somebody who said like as an older person trying to get into the industry, it sounded like their attitude was right. The question they asked was like, should I start as a PA? Like, if you want to, if you're prepared to do that, more power to you. Like, go do it. I think that's incredible. You know, like, I only have support for someone like that.
Excellent. Well, we're down to the last couple of minutes here. I can see we already got our 10-minute warning 7 minutes ago. But I think we had there's a question here which I think really sets us up to wrap up with the final one. So the question is, you know, as the VFX industry advances, what trends do you foresee in VFX leadership, and how should aspiring leaders adapt to these changes? So a great one that touches on your future vision as well as leaders, how to prepare for that.
And I love this question because it's from Matthias, and we used to work to Cinesite together. So hi, Matthias. I'm really happy.
That's so sweet.
I'm really happy that he's here and he's asking this question. It's such a great question. Adapt to these changes. I think we're not the first one to adapt to changes. There was the COVID passage. That was a big adaptation. So that's probably one that really is a big stepping stone for everyone, that will influence how we have to adapt and be super reactive and flexible. I think it's flexibility is one of the key words. Anyways, for me, it's like, sometimes you have to let go and say, okay, let me see it from another angle, like Zoe said. Grab it from
that's good. Build those that skill for flexibility so you can respond as change happens.
Exactly.
What about for you, Zoe? in terms of trends
Yeah,
you see and how to respond?
It is such a good question, and I feel like I would love more time to answer it. But I think to me, the sort of the answer is in the question and the adaptability. I think there are, we've seen huge, we have seen, challenges over the last few years. We continue to see challenges. I think being adapting to them is key, and learning, like, adapting actually is also a skill in itself. So, learning how to adapt. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for your company and your role? And stay calm, really. And look at what do those advantages give us, and really what can you lean into? Not be fearful of them, I think, as well. I think changes will come. They will continue to come. They're inevitable. So, lean into where they might change things, and then how do we cushion them elsewhere, and what support do we need to deal with the changes.
Yeah, I love that. What about for you, Shannan?
On sort of an everyday level, I think one of the things that was touched on before was working with people remotely. Like, that's a real skill. Being able to connect with people remotely is so difficult. I find it really hard. I'm much better in person and building a team, so that's something I personally need to work on as well. But from sort of an upper VFX level, stay strong, push back. When it comes to AI, let's push back and make sure that we are focusing on our artists, and our artists are going to give our clients the best they can. Yeah. So if you're at that level, then please just stay strong, and keep moving forward. There's, like Zoe said, there's great things coming through, and like, let's adapt to that and lean into them, but we don't need to lean into everything, and that's okay.
And maybe lean on each other, and when you have your allies, or even like companionship, because everybody's going through the same changes all at once. So start sharing about it and how it affects you and how we can resolve this together. Because if you're all in the same change at the same time, people get affected differently, might have idea how to attack it differently, even if it's not in your department. And even like, it could be ask an HR person, totally out of your day to day. Maybe they'll have a different perspective. Sometimes I do that, and people say, did you try this? No, I didn't try it. So let me try that. So,
oh, I love that. Yes. The change is inevitable and it's scary, but stay calm and care about each other, support each other, keep learning, be conscientious about choices. There's so much good stuff in there, really, for all the time.
We have to do a part 2 now, because there's good questions in there.
I know, there's so much more we didn't get to. But thank you all so much for joining me today. It's been really great to chat with you, Nathalie, Zoe, and Shannan. And great to meet you, Shannan, since we hadn't met before this. I'm really glad it happened just to meet you. And thank you everyone who joined, and for all those great questions too. I think some really thoughtful questions today. And that always adds to the discussion. So yeah, thank you again. And of course, want more of this, you can like and subscribe and, follow along with Foundry. And we are doing more and more of these YouTube live streams, and they're all quite diverse, like this one, quite a few different topics that we've covered. So definitely, if you're interested, follow along. But thank you again for joining, everyone.
It was wonderful.
Thank you
for having me.
Thank you.